For my STEM activity, I would have students build a structure using index cards. They can make it as tall or as wide as they want to. So the purpose of this would to spark creativity in students and also to intrinsically motivate students. As we saw in the video, students see failure as an opportunity to learn when it comes to STEM projects. So how I would teach this activity, I would tell students that today we are going to be creating a structure using index cards and a couple of other materials such as scissors, tape, glue, and string to create a structure such as a bridge, a building, or a statue. I would tell students that this structure can be as tall or as wide as they want it to be. So, and they can also use any type of shape that they want. So if they wanted to roll up the index card to make it thicker, then they can do that. If they want to cut out shapes, then they're able to do that. Whatever they want to do with the index cards is totally up to them. So the materials that they would get would be tape, glue, string, scissors. There will also be different sizes of index cards that they can use. And any other materials that they see that I put on the STEM table, they can also use that as well, and I'd let them know that. I would tell them that they also have coloring utensils in the back in case they wanted to color the index cards, since they are paper and they are white index cards that I'd be giving to them. They are able to do that just to spark a little bit more creativity if they want to. So I would show them an example of my structure. I would tell them that I did a building. I would say what I use, so I'd say all the materials that I use. I'd say I use tape to tape the index cards to make little circles. I could also say that I use tape to just tape the index cards together so that they didn't fall apart. I also use glue to do the same thing as well. Then I would tell students the different writing prompts that I want them to do after they create the structure. So the writing prompts that I would have would be how you built the structure. So if students maybe had a little bit of difficulty where their structure fell apart, they can talk about it there. That way when I'm grading it, I can get a true idea of everything going on. And then I would also say ask them what the structure would be used for. I would tell students, for mine, I built a building, and my building is a apartment. So people come into my apartment, they live in my apartment, they sleep in it, and they also cook in my apartment. So that's what I would talk about in the writing prompt. And that's how I would teach my students to do the activity. Okay, so how would I have the room set up? I would have the room at this point used as centers. So I would have one group with me working in small groups to do reading, and then I could have another group do another center, possibly with computers or some type of worksheet or activity. And then I would have the STEM center, and the STEM center would be in the back of the room, and there'd be a round table where the materials would be around it so that there's easy access for students to get all the materials they needed when creating their projects. They would also have paper for the writing prompt that goes along with the STEM activity. And I would purposely place the reading table at a place where I'd be able to see the STEM table so that I can see if students are participating and how hard they are working at their STEM activity. Said before, we would use different sizes of index cards. We would also have coloring utensils for students to bring some color to their structure. We would also have tape, glue, scissors, and string to go along with the activity. My students' learning, I'm going to evaluate my students' learning based off of the structure itself. I'm going to see how it looks and see if it looks like students got a lot out of the STEM project. In addition, I'm going to be looking at the writing prompts that students had to do after they created their structure. So the first one is how they built the structure. And through this writing prompt, I can see if any students made any failures in their structure and what they did to fix that failure. So if their structure fell, I can see based upon that writing prompt if they fixed it in any type of way. From that, I can also see how hard they worked. The second prompt is what they would use a structure for. So based upon this writing prompt, I can see their creativity that students put into their STEM project and what they think they would use the structure for. So that's basically how I would evaluate my students' learning. I can evaluate it in a literacy way and based upon the structure itself. So what are some difficulties I anticipate may happen? So I think that frustration might happen with this project. I think that since paper is fragile, that their projects might fall down. But the good thing about STEM is that it's often seen as failure is often seen as an opportunity to learn. And I'm hoping that for my students that they see their failure of the project falling down is an opportunity to go back and fix what they think might have happened to their structure and see what they can do to get that structure back up and going. I also think that some students might have difficulty with the writing prompt, so based upon their level, I might have to differentiate a little bit. I might have to either work with students individually on the writing prompt or in small groups. And I might also have to give a student one writing prompt instead of the two. So I can see myself putting STEM and literacy together. So having students build something and then write about it just to make it a little bit even more complex than it already is. I can also see it as a way for my students to build teamwork skills. So having students create a project together to help them collaborate and build those teamwork skills is something that I'd love to do in my classroom. I could also see myself using STEM activities as a center for students, and I can see it to build creativity and to intrinsically motivate my students. Okay, so how are marker spaces and STEM activities different? I think that they are both very similar when it comes to building things, so they both have the concept of building. However, I think that STEM activities seem to be based off of prompts or they are project based. So what I mean by this is that for STEM activities, it seems like you get prompts like build a structure using index cards or build the tallest ramp that you can. With marker space, it seems as if you have a little bit of more free range with it. In addition to that difference, I also think that marker spaces are more based off of household materials such as cardboard or toilet paper rolls. However, I think that STEM activities can have a lot of different materials such as Legos or building blocks or anything like that. So there are a couple of differences. However, I do think they are similar in a couple of ways. So I used to always build buildings from Lincoln Logs or Legos, or I'd always try to build the tallest castle with my brother and my sister. One thing that I did a lot was I had a big bag of dominoes and I would put them all around my house and I line them up so I can just tip one over and then all the rest go down. So my goal is to make the longest domino path and to see if all of them went down. That was something that I used to do a lot and I thought was really fun. So